Speaker, and I rise to speak on the Constitution Amendment Fracking Ban Bill 2020, and I am absolutely flabbergasted. I'm glad to be following the new Minister for Agriculture because that was some performance. I'm going to begin by telling you a story. Before I was a Member of Parliament, I represented farmers. I sat on the United... Oh, it's a pity you don't stay, Minister, because I reckon we could have a chat about some of the things you've been doing in the last couple of weeks as the new Minister. It shows you have no understanding of the farming community. But walk out just when I start to talk about what actually really did happen, because I was actually sitting around the table at the time. So as a member of the United Dairy Farmers of Victoria Policy Council representing South West Victoria, I was sitting around that table when the government was sending the scientists and the departments, I think it would have been DPI or DRNE, around that time. The changes were hard to keep up with. Deppy, to actually tell us about the fact that the Labor government had done the work and that fracking, according to the people coming in and trying to tell us the story that it would be safe for fracking to take place in Victoria. I can remember sitting around that table many a time having the evidence put in front of me, supposed evidence that fracking was okay. Now, my job as South West Victoria's representative, it was actually Western Victoria's representative, was to go back and share that information with the farmers. So I would go to the meetings and I would say, this is what we were told, and the farmers were absolutely livid. I can remember Basil Ryan, who has had a long history in water management. You'll probably remember him, member for South Gippsland. Basil's been in the VFF for many years and he was mortified. He said, "You are kidding me. We cannot risk agricultural land. This fracking is dangerous. It will be dangerous to the water table. It will harm our agricultural land." Now, the farmers didn't agree. So I did my duty and reported it with absolute cynicism and fear, and I was very pleased that the farmers actually didn't for 1 minute take that and think that it was any sense of confidence or anything. So I sit here today and I hear the Labor government, who were the only ones, not the Liberals, not the Nationals. We have never been part of issuing any licences, not exploratory licences, not licences in any shape or form. But this Labor team across here, who we've had the member for Northcote, who would have to be aware that her father was the Energy Minister issuing those licences at the time, and the Minister for Agriculture actually standing there saying that it was the Liberals and the Nationals who have not come to the party. We actually led the charge. It was led the charge against it. We set the moratorium in place to begin with. We were the very first ones that said no, this is not okay. It was Labor who issued the licences to frack. It can't be clearer than that. So what we see is a government that's so good at spin, they are so blatant in the way they will spin a story to cover up their ineptitude and inept behaviour, is just scratch the surface. It's like I've said this in here a number of times, just scratch the surface and the truth actually comes forward. And I'm sorry, but I could not believe what I just heard from the new Minister for Agriculture, to lie to the farmers and say, I'm sorry, I misused that word, I'm not allowed to use that word, to tell a mistruth and tell farmers that we weren't there.
The member for Yan Yan.
The member for South West Coast has corrected her, but I'd ask that that word be withdrawn from the record. She knows that that word is unparliamentary.
Just to advise the member for Yan Yan in the House that we cannot amend. The member has corrected the record. Thank you. The member for South West Coast to continue.
Really, I think what I'm saying here is people aren't silly enough to fall for the attempt to just have the Liberals wedged in these sort of political attempts rather than what they're not. You guys aren't caring about farmers. You don't care about the environment and the landscape. Every day a farmer gets out of bed, they think about the fact that their grandchildren are the ones who are going to be working the land in 3 generations' time. That's what we think about when we get out of bed in the morning. So I'm sorry. And the minister already in her very short time has proven her her low understanding, her poor understanding for agriculture to actually be sitting by while manure, cow manure in particular, and obviously, you know, I come from a dairy farming background where, you know, we have to deal with quite a large amount of manure waste on an annual basis, and we do that in a recycling way and putting it back into the soil and making sure it's managed by testing and making sure it's not, you know, it's right, it's done correctly. But the minister's now labelled it industrial waste, and for the regulation, it just makes no sense. It actually doesn't achieve any purpose except give farmers more regulation burden, more regulatory burden, and make us more uncompetitive internationally from domestic policies that the ministers like this, who have very little understanding and go and do things like that before they've even got the feet under the table. Not to mention the situation we've got with the food labelling. Now, that's something I sat around the Australian Dairy Farmers Board table for many years talking about the star grade proposition to help with obesity, to help with nutrition, and that's all very important. But when you've got something like orange juice, freshly squeezed orange juice that has no sugar added, being put in a position that's going to be lower from a star rating perspective than soft drink, then that is something I'm very disappointed. When David Littleproud, the federal member, actually recognised it, well, did you vote in favour of that or not?
Minister, thank you.
Speaker, Minister Littleproud is not the federal government's representative on FSANZ and the Food and Representative Order, and I would ask the honourable member to, one, get her facts straight, two, if she's going to enter completely different debates, do it through the appropriate measures of the House, and three, to return to the bill.
Thank you for your comments, and it doesn't change what I was saying. The minister made a point as the Minister for Agriculture, and you had the opportunity to support that, and you didn't, as the Minister for Health and the Minister for Agriculture. So that's very disappointing, and I return to the bill by saying that the new Minister for Agriculture has the opportunity to support farmers, not to actually spin stories to try and convince farmers who have been on this journey like myself since the early 2000s and have long memories and know for fact that it is the Labor government who issued licences. It is the minister from 2006, the member for Northcote's father, who was responsible for issuing the energy minister issuing licences, and it'll be the members for the city who get up and try and carry on about how you're looking after farmers. Well, I'm sorry, but you're looking at someone who sat around the table, who heard the rhetoric and who isn't fooled and still, you know, knows that people like Basil Ryan continues to this day farming, knowing full well the story, and every other farmer in Western Victoria and Northern Victoria and Eastern Victoria. You know, Paul Mumford, the UDV president, he was sitting around the table with me still then. Darryl Hoey, I could go on, John Keeley, they're all still there and they remember. So this is not fooling anyone. This is not fooling anyone. Labor have a poor track record, particularly in the environmental area, and this one in particular. So don't just keep the spin up, because guess what? The community are seeing through it. I think the member for South Gippsland raised the point about the fact that, you know, we thought spin through the memes that we're seeing. You know, Shane Warne could spin, but by goodness me, we're seeing a Premier right now spin, and the community are seeing straight through it. So I'll conclude by reiterating the member for Warrandyte, the Shadow Minister for this portfolio's words, and that is there is a long track record of Labor actually trying to pull the wool over farmers' eyes, not us.